this episode, we are full on spoilers for both the books and the show. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey there, I'm Bill, also known as Matt Stagger.
I'm Reverse BLT.
I'm Over's Ears.
And I'm Glenn the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, the YouTube channel that reviews adaptations from one format to another. This week, we are continuing with Season 4 of The Expanse with Episode 5, Oppressor. And this episode was written by, well, a couple of guys who I don't know how much they know about The Expanse. Their names are Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. They write
Never heard of them.
What would they know?
Yeah, what do they know? It was directed by a long time.
Write this stuff.
Right. It was directed by Jeff WtA, who I would have thought was Wolnuff, but it's WtA apparently. He's done a number of other episodes for the show. And let me see who. Yeah, here's Jeff WtA. You can see some of the shows he's been a director for. Some big names in there. I mean, he's been on Vikings, and I can't read that. Cloak and Dagger was a fun Marvel show. But
I just noticed that was a great movie from way back in the day.
Yeah, he's got a big IMDb list.
And it
So
seems
he's been doing much.
It seems he's done about 12 episodes over the entire run of the series.
Yep. That's pretty
Just solid
significant
contribution.
percentage.
So overall, what did everybody think of the episode?
Stinker. No.
It was
For me,
it was a fun
honestly,
episode.
I enjoyed this episode more than episode 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
We definitely got a bit more of the Murtry from the book in this episode. We get a little bit of his reasoning, and I mean, even at one point, Holden is like, he's not wrong. They did blow up the shuttle. She is kind of a terrorist, although we do find out later she's an unwilling, but nonetheless still
Right.
responsible member of that party. So yeah, I enjoyed the fact that,
negligent.
yeah, well, I mean, I understand her guilt. I know where she's coming from. At least she tried to stop it. I mean, she was physically knocked unconscious. So
I have a question about that when we get to it.
Okay.
Yep.
Ooh,
problem.
interesting. That should be fun.
Yeah, I liked the episode a lot. But this episode is, as I mentioned in the pre-show with you guys, it's kind of a perfect example of where the episode doesn't really adapt much at all from the book. Whether that's good or bad in your opinion, differs. But it's very little of this episode's actually from the book, and I thought that was interesting because it's still a dang good episode of TV.
I was going to say, our first question is what changed from the source material, and did it impact your enjoyment? But I'm like the whole episode is a change because most of this
Almost
does
like,
not
what's
happen.
source material?
Yeah. So question 1 is kind of out the window.
Yeah.
Are we okay with the fact that there's not a whole lot of book in this episode and it's just new?
I am.
I mean, I am.
Yeah.
For the most
I mean,
part, yeah.
there is some book in here, though.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
some.
changed.
Yeah.
Like something with the book, we do get the scene at the launch pad, the argument between the person who wired the bomb and Koo. It just, in this case, it's the med tech and not the husband of the hand doctor, because they downgraded Lucia's skills in the show. She's just a medical tech instead of a hand surgeon. She was a highly skilled surgeon on Ganymede.
Right.
Why? My question is why is it the med tech doing the wiring of the explosives and not somebody who works in the mines like Basha, who worked in the mines, and that's why he knew how to wire explosives?
Yeah, that was actually a weakness of the change to Lucia. They clearly needed her to still have that level of direct responsibility for what happened, but her skill set no longer doesn't support what they have her doing.
Yeah, even a hand surgeon. You could see a hand surgeon because they've got fine manual dexterity.
Yeah,
Well, I would
the
imagine a
knowledge
med
of
tech
explosives.
does as well. Maybe not as good as a hand surgeon, but still good.
Well, throughout the entire series, though, they've made it clear that the Belters in general are capable of many different things. I mean, they go beyond their core abilities or responsibilities. So I don't put it past her.
Well, these particular belters, in particular, because they've been stranded on this planet and they've learned how to make do. So everybody had to learn how to do a little bit of everything. So
yeah,
I'm willing to look past the why was she wiring it. I mean,
I just thought it was it was weird. A strange choice, but go ahead.
Olver's right, because I mean you think all the way back to Diogo asking Miller what kind of belter's never done a spacewalk. So yeah, really does. You're right that there's this kind of idea that they all kind of have to touch pretty much every aspect of life in space, and so yeah, probably she would actually have had to wire some stuff at some point in her life.
Yeah, and in the case you just brought up with Diogo and Miller, it's like someone from the country asking big city slicker, "You mean you've never milked a cow?" Right? It's same kind of thing. Everybody has their expertise and they know many things beyond that, but they don't know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So and we shouldn't assume that their title tells us all the things they know how to do.
Right. Now, the thing I wanted to bring up that I mentioned earlier, and you guys went, ooh, has to do with this exact thing. When WtA comes back and wakes back up, and she's fighting over the remote control, she looks up and she's the one that presses the button. So my question is, do you think she believed the shuttle was still far enough away that it could pull away? Or do you think maybe she decided the hell with it and let's go ahead and blow this regardless?
I think she was trying to minimize the casualties. I think she was trying to minimize casualties.
Yeah.
The sooner she could do it, the further away they were. Yeah.
Right. Because they were going to get hit no matter what at that point. But yeah, better for them to be further up.
Yeah, because I did think that it's not Scotty, the other one who got shot.
Coop.
Coop. It seemed to me that I forgot where I was going. Well, Coop definitely wanted it to blow. Oh no, he had said that if they pull down far enough, it's going to blow on its own. So I think that may be the reason why she decided to do it, in the hopes that it wouldn't be as horrid as it could be.
Yeah, because she points out that the thrusters on the shuttle would set off the explosives as they landed.
Yeah. And it would have killed literally everybody.
Yeah, I think she was trying to minimize the casualties as best she could. Setting it off early definitely saved some lives. Not all, obviously, but definitely saved some lives. Because if they would have landed and the thrusters would have set it off, that whole shuttle's gone. Everybody on it, everything on it is just, but it's tissue paper.
Do you believe that maybe she thought there would be no casualties?
Probably not. At that point,
I don't think she was in the right frame of mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she just took a blow to the head, so I don't think she was even thinking clearly, other than, oh my God, I can see the ship. Maybe if I set it off now, it won't be as bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's also worth pointing out, how many of you guys have been knocked out before?
Yeah.
Okay. So you remember then that there's no continuity buffer. There's the moment before and the moment when you return to consciousness are right after each other.
Right.
So it's entirely possible that she also just literally had no concept that time had passed at all, and was pretty much right back at the moment that she was trying to stop everything. Probably, she was aware of the fact that she was on the cart and they were moving away. So she probably could quickly ascertain it. The only option left to her was blowing the detonator at that point, or pulling the detonator.
They did a pretty decent job of showing her disorientation with the VFX and the fuzziness and the sort of shakiness of the cam. So I definitely think, and I can tell you personally, I've been knocked out more than once. I don't remember the act of getting knocked out. I've never remembered that. I'll remember 5 minutes before that, and then it's just blank until I woke up. So, you know, I've woken up and been like, how did this happen?
Yeah. I remember the gap. Like, it was like a cut, literally like a cut in a movie.
Yeah. It feels like somebody edited your brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the last bit was me seeing the guy walking towards me as we're crossing the street opposite directions. Next thing I know, they're helping me up off the ground. He did apparently, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "The guy punched you and took off running." And I'm like,
yeah, I hate sucker punchers. I got knocked out by a kid trying to jump over me while I was tobogganing down a hill. He caught me with his knee right on the edge of my head. That's the only time I've ever been knocked out by another person. I've been hit in the head with lead pipes and everything. That one friend trying to jump over me, hitting me in the head with his knee is when I got knocked out.
Something else that there's another thing in the episode that comes straight from the books, and that's Murtry ordering the rigging of one of the light shuttles as a bomb. I had forgotten that they did actually include that in the episode.
Yeah.
Different time and place, but definitely same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's much later in the timeline in the show than in the books. Murtry seemed to have this premonition he's going to need it at a much earlier stage in the books. If reading the books, it's kind of a stretch that he would come up with that idea at that time. But, you know, hey.
I agree.
Whatever.
Well, I like the way they did it with the possible, you know, we have to evacuate. It makes sense that that would occur to him at that moment. So it tracks well in the show for me.
Yeah.
But speaking of scenes, did anybody have a favorite scene? Favorite dialogue?
I definitely have a favorite scene, but I
have a feeling that's another situation where we're going to have a meeting of the minds.
Mine takes place on the Rossi. Mine takes place on the Rossi.
Yep.
Med Day. Med Day.
Yep.
I wanted to get back.
Naomi and Lucia talking.
Yes.
Is the scene for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mitch
the
over
first
there
time
had
I think
something.
Lucia really blew me away. So far this season.
Yeah.
She's kind of been hit or miss. This particular episode and this particular scene is very hard hitting and very emotional. And you could see she really pulled off the gut wrenching guilt. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be one of my favorite episodes for character development. Like the character work in this episode was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's where we find out the most about Naomi's backstory. I don't think we've ever gotten this much of her background. Not even when she was telling Holden about, Philip and Marco.
Yeah.
And this is one of the changes from the books that I actually really like, because in the book, the scene between Basha and Alex. And Alex is saying, yeah, you really fucked that one up. He doesn't hold back, but he also Alex tells us in the book how he fucked up his relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that we have, instead of Alex's backstory, we get Naomi's.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because we need it to understand. Yeah, in a way it works better, because it helps us put last week into more context. All the stuff we had with Marco and Naros last week. And it prepares us for the next two seasons.
Yep.
Because that is the relationship between Marco and Naomi might be one of the most pivotal relationships in the entire series of books.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much revolves around it.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many parallels and echoes with her past life with Marco and her current life with Holden and the Rossi and all that stuff. The different crews that she ran with and different ideologies, but the same kind of underlying, almost sort of. I mean, both Marco and Holden tilted windmills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
They got Don Quixote syndrome. Absolutely. If I had to pick a second favorite scene, it would probably be Holden trying to explain to him that the artifact is speaking to him, because I love the fact that we forget how batshit insane he actually sounds if you haven't been with him for the whole series.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, he sounds like a loon. I love this.
And I love
would, if I was, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the fact that Elvie is saying, "Do you have proof? Do you have proof? Do you have?" And she keeps
Good
saying the
scientist.
same thing. I love it.
Because that's
Well,
that'd be
the
my
gates are
first thing
open.
too. Like,
I managed to open the ring gates, didn't I? Is what I would have said as Jim. The gates are open thanks to me and the ghost in my head. And you know
Which I
what?
would
I have
say-
told people about this because the government of Earth, Mars, and the OPA know about Miller, and they still sent me out here to do this. So maybe just shut up.
LV would respond with correlation does not equal causation.
Oh, yeah.
Fair
That's
point.
true. That's
That
true.
is true.
I'll tell you. I think the most consistent character that we've come across is Elvie, because she's always that thinking about type person, and I just love it. I mean, she cuts off Fayez up on the ship. He says, "Let me look at this." You know, and when he presents her with information, and she's just so perfect is in portraying that particular type of character. It's just grand.
Lindy Greenwood. Lindy Greenwood has been amazing, in my opinion. I think this is the best work of hers that I've seen. I've only seen her in a couple other things, one of which was Sleepy Hollow. But she's really good in this role.
Okay.
I really like her. And Elvie is, while not one of my favorite characters, it's probably the character in the books that I find the most attractive, and that's without seeing them. It's just because, you know, how smart she is and how, you know, what she does in the latter 3 books of the series. I'm just like, Elvie is awesome. Elvie is just gorgeous. I just love her.
Yeah.
I just love the
really
character.
glad that they
death.
nixed the love triangle. Well, not the love triangle, but the infatuation.
Oh, God,
So we
yeah.
can focus more on what makes her actually interesting as a character.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think that
was
got in the way more than
that was a
it
very
helped
good thing to
anything.
drop. Very good thing to
Yeah.
drop.
And leaving Fayez up on the ship made better sense too.
Yeah, and it made it easier for them to ditch that particular side story too.
Yeah,
having him
yes,
not
that's
be
true.
present. So I do hope that they, because obviously you guys know I haven't watched yet past season 4, so I do hope that they do at least pick up their little romance though, because I did think it was cute when it finally did develop. You know, but
Watch and find out, brother.
Exactly, that's what I got to
find
do.
out.
I'm starting season 5 in like 2 weeks, I think. So
Nice.
Okay. All right. I wanted to get back to the changes thing, and it also has to do with one of my favorite scenes. So it's doing double duty, and that is Amos and Way's relationship. This kind of kinky thing that they have going on.
Under different circumstances, this could be hot.
Strapped to the bed.
And it's funny because in the book at some point, I think it's just before the islands explode. Yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, it happened at the end of the
episode.
episode.
Yeah.
We saw one go up. So
Yeah, Holden has this wonder, or in the books, he wonders, is there something going on with Amos and Wade? And here they just bring it right out in front, and the bits where he's shackled and she comes up and is stroking his chin, and she says, "Oh, this could be kind of fun." I thought, how brilliant, because they've all we know that they've already had some fun, and now take it to the next level.
I like that line a bit later where they were watching the shit start, getting ready, starting to go down. And he said something, and she says, "Are you hitting on me?" And he says, "Not right now." And she says, "Disappointing," and then walks away. And I'm just like, that's just funny.
He said she needed someone to watch her backside.
Yeah, watch her backside.
He was talking about the meat grinder, the way they had the gun set up, the Belters did, and he's like, watch your ass.
But I thought that was fun.
Strange enough for me, not focusing on the sexual part of this for this part, but like that scene you mentioned earlier, one of the things I found really interesting was the subtle way that they showed us that Amos really cares about her. Was when he immediately told Holden when he comes in, don't shoot her.
Yeah.
Right.
The most expedient thing to do, the most pragmatic thing to do in the situation probably would have been to shoot her.
Yeah.
And Amos immediately went and put the kibosh on that, which was a very non-Amos thing to do. You know what I mean? Like,
and then
for him
she
to
did
just
something
right out and be like, don't shoot this person who is clearly positioned right now as our enemy. You know what I mean?
And at the end of that scene, she starts to do something that could have gotten her killed if Murtry hadn't shown up at that moment, because she started to draw on a guy who already had his gun on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know enough about guns that if somebody's already got their gun, not so much aimed at me, but like this way, I don't have time to draw my gun out and shoot before they pull. I'm not fast enough.
You accept that you're not gonna. You're not.
Yeah. You have to be a really fast draw, I think, to beat somebody who's got that rifle in their hands from shooting you before you can draw and fire on them.
I think they've shown that she's a little overconfident in herself and Murtry. They've set that up. So I think there's going to come a realization moment this season for her where she's going to see Murtry for what he really is, and it's going to crush her.
Yeah,
like the moment she gets killed.
I don't know, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
Given this episode, I have no idea what they're doing. I have an idea where they're going because I read the book, but at the same time, I'm like, this episode.
Well, you're doing episode by episode, so you haven't seen the rest of the season.
I have not.
Okay.
I am doing episode by episode.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware. Oh, okay.
I will try to refrain from too much for the rest of the season.
I can literally just go, I didn't hear that.
I mean, it's good. It's good to know how you're doing it though, so we don't inadvertently spoil some changes.
Definitely do an episode by episode.
Okay. And
so I've got two people not to talk about later seasons about then. Both of you up above.
I definitely want to see some of the ways that they change remix things. So I'm really trying to stay blind about seasons 5 and 6.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I read that I did struggle with this book in particular. Like I said, out of the 6 I read, this was my least favorite, and I struggled with it a bit because it felt like it was setting up so much more. It all felt sort of like that book that is setting everything up, and it felt a little like homework at times. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But the show, I'm not getting that feeling at all, and I think it's because they are diverging.
Yeah, they're recognizing what aspects were dragging. Like for me, the book still worked really well just because there was a lot of weird, trippy sci-fi. You know what I mean? For me to look at we delving into more of what it was like to exist as the builders, for instance. You know what I mean? Like what their civilization was actually like, and like this episode, of course, we have like the thing that happens at the end of the episode is when I realized reading the book what Illis was. Like what the planet itself was when that island blew up. I was like, holy shit, this thing's a battery. It's like, or a generator. You know what I mean? It's like they had this all of a sudden this big aha moment of like, that's what this entire freaking planet is. And I was in awe because think about that. Like, we have so many examples in sci-fi of like mega structure engineering and things like that. But like
Death Star
builds planets that aren't planets. You know what I mean? Like, or they are, but they're not. You know what I mean? Like the fact that it's a planet is incidental to what its purpose is, and that's insane. Like I can't even think of what kind of a species approaches engineering that way.
Yeah,
just wanted to real quick say hi to everybody in chat. Sorry, Winter's Lady and Norman Garden. I haven't been paying attention to chat.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's really difficult to watch chat at the same time as like watching the video screens of everybody.
Yeah, and trying to keep my notes on screen too. That's what was covering chat for me.
Yeah, I know. So how did the quality of production, cinematography, sound effects to music, all that stuff, how'd you guys feel about that in this episode? I mean, I don't
High
have anything that
quality.
really stands out.
Yeah, same high quality. They knew how to film the personal moments really well. They didn't try to get fancy with anything. They just, for the most part, gave us cameras just sitting to the side and watching people talk, which was the best way to handle it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And there's some little things.
Only G here. Only G.
What are you saying, Mitch?
No, I'd love to comment too. I still love how they handle the zero gravity stuff. As far as the blood floating.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, it's just so good. Kind of stepping backwards to some of the favorite moments when Naomi gets out of sickbay and she's floating up and she's touching things gently and so on, and just enjoying the zero G. I mean, it's so believable how they've done that, presented it. It's just beautiful to see.
And another great echo moment, because it echoes back to when Drummer was helping them out after getting her spinal injury. Yeah. And they reached the top of the elevator and she has that moment of weightlessness.
Oh, yeah.
That moment of relief. I was surprised at how quickly Naomi got better. I mean, she, the gravity drugs weren't working. She was pretty rough on the planet. And I'm like, they're not going to like completely diverge from the books of Killer, are they? Because the makeup department did a really good job. She looked ashen and she looked like she was struggling to breathe a lot.
Yeah.
There's another one of those ones where I got to ask who else has had this experience. Who here's had a heart attack?
Yeah,
never had one.
So this is one where I can explain something here. That was perfect. I've had a heart attack, and Naomi, I think the biggest thing they were pulling from was the idea that she was under severe cardiac distress. And I can tell you, when I got my stent placed, I was at 99.7% closure. I was literally right here, about to die. Like I was right there. And the minute they placed the stent, it was like so much relief just flooded into me. And when I saw, like, I wish I had, like, at some point I'll have to show you guys pictures, like, right up to the point where I was going to have a heart attack. And then, like, pretty much immediately afterward, you could see the difference physically. Like, I was frail. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I can believe that. It's like, it's amazing how fast your body just, like, recovers the minute your heart is back to doing what it's supposed to do. You know? And you don't even realize just how bad you were until all of a sudden it's better. So that was perfectly handled. Someone who's been there.
Yeah, I just wanted to give kudos to the makeup department because, like I said, they did a really good job making her look hollow-eyed, ashen face, and she did a great job selling the struggling to breathe. I just think it was overall team effort really worked out with the special effects, makeup, and the acting. Just blended together beautifully. So,
I also want to give kudos to when they did the surgery, the whole surgery process.
Yeah.
The graphics
for having to direct her own surgery.
The graphics up on the screen, that is at the end of that probe that Alex has.
That probe went awful far away into that body of hers.
Oh,
hey, I just had hernia surgery like a couple weeks ago. So for me, this was I still
that's
feel
what's in. And you thought they smelled bad on the outside, right?
Seriously.
The only thing I have, everything was great on this episode except for, and I'm going to lump continuity in with all the production stuff because that's production side.
Oh yeah,
and that's the continuity question I had about the carts, the cars that they're driving around that I was asking earlier. Where did RCE get one? Because I don't know that it would have survived that crash, that explosion. But who knows?
There had to be another transport because of all the equipment, the shelters, and everything they have. there had to be an off-screen offload of equipment
Yeah.
and stuff like that somewhere. So,
What's up,
And-
Viking?
hey,
I
Chronic.
think there's mention, but I'm not sure it's in this episode. It might be later. But I think there is mention of the fact that RCE has had shuttles come down and go back up. And also
it's just
the Barb too. So I think they've mentioned
Yeah.
that both ships have had shuttles going back and forth.
That's all just been ignored on the show. Though. That was
Yeah, it's just been
why I've
pretty
been
much not
questioning.
Mhm.
Yeah. Other
It's
than
like
that,
how they never
I
tell
mean-
us how long they've been traveling anywhere.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Other
Yeah,
than that,
you never did. It took
this is the
6 months to get
Expanse.
here.
Yeah, this is the Expanse. They've got excellent production quality and standards going on this show. That question on our question list is almost a moot point, question asked with the Expanse, because rarely do we ever have a problem.
Yeah.
Their attention to
Yeah.
detail is
Production
very
wise.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, the Beyblade, the Beyblade tearing up the planet was not great. I'm sorry, that was not great. Visually, that was not pleasing.
Which
Yeah.
one was that? I'm sorry.
Oh, last episode, the
The
drill.
grinder,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah,
thinking it was the
the
drilling too.
CGI on that was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of
big
my
problem
favorite
with
things
was
that
it
this
was-
show does is the Foley work on this show pays a lot of attention to detail. And especially if you listen, you can tell if they're on the float or not as they walk around. If you hear the click, click, click of the boots, you know
Yeah, the
they're in
gravity
zero
boots.
G. If you don't hear the click, you know they're under thrust because they've got
They even
artificial
bother
gravity
to
change.
give us the sound of the people activating their boots.
Yes.
The
The
wine.
they're-
only
We pay a lot of
The
attention.
only
to it.
Foley issue I had is that sure sounded like a wooden door when Alex knocked on the door trying to get Lucia's attention. It didn't sound like he was knocking on a metal door, which you would think a ship would have as a door, to
didn't
your
notice that.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a-
Funny
it was
about
a-
that. So this is one of those things where I don't know what they try to convey from the books, because obviously in the books the ship interiors are always covered in anti-spalling material. Is that the term for
material.
it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're covered with extra material to prevent metal from going all over the place if they get hit with something, and also to pad stuff a little bit in case of like sudden G-force changes.
Right.
So I don't know if there was any effort to try and incorporate those ideas into the
Into the
production,
Foley
and
work.
maybe that's why certain things sound a little weird. Because
It could be.
we don't see anything that's overtly anti-spalling and stuff usually, but when we have scenes like, for instance, in the last season, when the station stopped everybody, and we had Anna walking around, there were certain things that definitely indicated that the UNN ships definitely had some extra material on their walls for that purpose. You know what I mean? But it was very subtle compared to the way it's described in the books. Like in the books, it seemed like something you would really, really notice. Like it would be really obvious.
It's ubiquitous in the books.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's overt. You feel it's there. It sticks out.
Yeah. Just like the
And
crash
my
house,
head
like,
pictures
there's
it like
days ago,
carpeting
it's
on the
still very
walls.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, my head pictures it like they put carpeting on the bulkheads. Is all I picture in my head,
That's how I saw it too. But like tailored. You know what I mean? So that it would look really professional, but like,
It wasn't
Right.
shag carpet. It
Yeah,
was the
exactly,
nice
like-
stuff.
or it wouldn't look like, the pads you use when you're packing up like an apartment or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like it would look like some sort of futuristic, like high grade. But I guess, I don't know, at some point they probably were like, okay, I think what it is the production, to a certain degree, they'll say certain things will just assume the audience either does not know should exist, so they won't care, or will assume that we know it should exist, and so they'll just assume that it's there. It just doesn't look like they expected it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But it would be
And-
funny if they did take that into account with the sound design, and that's why the door sounded weird when you like
That would be it. That would be a good answer, good explanation.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was something I had totally forgotten until I started talking about the Foley work here just a minute ago. But yeah, that popped into my memory. because I noticed that today
Serious.
when
If
I
I
was
ever get
watching
the
it.
opportunity to talk to those guys, I'm going to ask them.
Well, Foley work is one of those jobs in a movie, TV show that just I have so much respect for, because you got to be really creative.
Yeah.
And
Well, it can make or break
who-
a scene.
yeah, I mean, who would have thought that moment in Terminator, Judgment Day, when the T-1000 is walking through the bars, that sound was dog food being let out of a can of dog food. They opened it and held it upside down and just let the dog food slide out and recorded that sound. That's what it is as he's going through the bars. And I'm just like, I never would have thought to do that.
Yeah.
And they're like mad geniuses, because they clearly look at the world in a very different way.
Well, it's left over from the radio play days. I mean, when they would do it live, they would have a table full of props, and as your voice actors are doing the radio live, they would do sound effects live in studio, which is just crazy. And I think that's where that ingenuity sort of came from. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
100%.
That's something that's handed down amongst the sound engineers over the years.
Sound engineers work very closely with the Foley guys.
Oh yeah.
And probably, in my opinion, I just want to, this is a tangent, but oh well. The greatest sound engineer of all time is Ben Burtt for Star Wars. What he did with Star Wars, he as much as George Lucas, shaped the way an entire 3 or 4 generations hear movies and TV.
I was thinking the entire time that you were talking about Foley, about like his use of, what is it, guitar? Was it piano strings for blasters?
No, it's the line
Guitar
that for holds light or telephone poles. Those cables that go from the top of a telephone.
He ran like a metal pole or something down it, right?
Boom! He hit it with like a hammer or a bar.
Yep. Right.
Like who thinks of that?
Genius.
Was he sitting there just experimenting with backing stuff and heard a sound? I was like, that's what blasters should sound like. Or did he say to himself, blasters should sound like this, and I think I know exactly what would sound like that, and goes off and then does it?
A guy I knew ages ago actually had on tape, because there was no digitized at that point, had on tape, like he had thousands of tapes with different sounds on it that he could utilize for mostly background. He was a sound engineer rather than a Foley guy, but just for background noises, like big crowds, medium crowds, small crowds, intimate crowds, and he had all these different tapes. And I mean, well, probably hundreds, maybe thousands. I was only at his place once, but it was an impressive pile of reel-to-reel tapes. I was astounded. I mean, it covered an entire wall.
If anybody is ever doing audio and editing, and you need Foley, you need sound effects, the BBC has released, you can find it online, like decades worth of sound effects that they compiled over decades, as the radio, with radio and television. There's a lot of places, the Internet Archive. Yeah.
I know.
I'll see if I can track the link down for you.
My parting gags are about to take another level up. So I used to have a radio show back in college, and one of my favorite days was when I discovered the collection of random effects and B-roll audio and stuff that we had at the station. We started putting together whole sketches. Like we did, we had this running show about Barney causing the apocalypse, Barney the purple dinosaur. He was like traveling around the world, and we had all these like random sound cards that we would use to create the soundscapes for where he was. It was so much fun. Oh yeah, that was really great. Like how Peter Jackson got the sounds for the what was the army, I think, that was attacking Helm's Deep.
Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
Uruk-hai, and also for Return of the King, as he points out, when they were chanting Grand, which was the big battering ram.
One of my favorites is Tron Legacy. When they're actually in the arena, doing the games, The crowd chanting is actually from Comic-Con. They literally just held the microphone out and had the crowd at Comic-Con read the
Nice.
words off the screen. So
That's
you're
pretty
hearing the
awesome.
actual
Oh.
fans from Comic-Con actually
Also-
chanting that stuff.
Thinking of that, just to, I guess, maybe close out this tangent before we get too far off base.
Yeah, we are drifting.
I love the fact that that movie is experiencing a reevaluation, because it is
I haven't even
Tron
seen it
Legacy is a perfect example of how stuff can be considered bad purely because it doesn't meet what people had in their head, rather than it being actually bad. You know what
The
I mean?
Last
There were so
Jedi?
many people who were like, yeah, the Last Jedi did have some problems. I mean, that's going to get us off on a whole huge tangent if we start
Right.
talking about that. But like,
Yeah, we're
but,
talking
you know,
Tron Legacy.
but you have these movies and books and everything else where the problem is that people don't personally enjoy it because of something that it didn't do for them. You know what I mean? And I think with Tron Legacy, you had a lot of people who had built up in their mind over 30 years what the sequel to Tron was going to be like. And then when they went and saw it, it wasn't that thing that they had specifically in their head, and they left and said, this movie sucks. And that movie 100% did not suck. It was a
No,
good
I love
film.
that movie.
Okay. And we've got and I noticed, like, even with the Star Wars prequels, for instance, if you look at the audience that did not go in with the baggage we went in with, and notice the way they related to it versus how the initial crew of older folks related to it, you can see that the problem isn't that it was bad. It's just that it wasn't what you wanted.
They expect.
You know what I mean? And that's a huge
Yeah, it
difference.
didn't meet expectations that you expected.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
Tron Legacy is actually quite a good film, and I think it's actually really sad that we didn't get to see where they were planning on going with that because it didn't do well enough at the box office when it came out. Though I have heard
See,
reboot
Yeah,
the
me
third
too.
is coming. So
I've heard
Yeah.
rumbles.
see,
Yeah.
subverting expectations is not always a good thing. It's not always a bad thing,
True.
but it's not always a good thing.
it's true. You have to subvert with purpose. And if you are making a commercial product, it is true that you do have to understand what most of your audience is going to be expecting from you. At least if you want it to be successful. And that's the thing. Artists are artists. Yeah. Artists are going to art first more than anything usually. And so they're not usually going to be thinking about what's going to necessarily make things successful.
Speaking of art, I want everybody's best and worst actor. Mitch, let's start with you.
Okay.
Mitch had something else. Go ahead and finish what you're going to say, Mitch, and then go ahead and do your
Well, I was going to say,
sorry, did I interrupt?
A major flop at the box office at the time, but has since been heralded as one of the all-time greats, was Metropolis. It did very, very poorly when it first came out. And once you got outside of Germany, so that was dubbed and everything, it just...
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't dubbed. It was, I mean, you had the... yeah.
Now it's considered a seminal work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's kind of a staple.
I think you have to go back around the other side, because now we've got this weird wave of people who are saying stuff like 2001 is a shitty movie.
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a particular movie. Like you have to.
We will talk about 2001 another day. Actually, that might be a good adaptation to cover.
It would. It would. I haven't read that book in ages.
Oh, I haven't either.
So Mitch, what's your...
That's like a reverse adaptation, right? Because like the book wasn't written pretty much after
it was written and then made
the script was done.
There was a short story novella that came out before the script was written,
right.
I think.
Sentinel.
And then there was the novel version.
All right.
But Mitch, who was your favorite actor?
Okay,
I'll let Noam fact check me on 2001.
What do you say?
Best and worst
Luke is
actor.
already...
Best and worst actor. Mitch, did you have one?
I've got I have a pair of best actors, and I think you're not going to disagree with me. Stephen McCarthy and Rosie Gilmore as Jacob and Lucia, primarily because of the argument that they have over the radio communication or the video communication. they portrayed a couple in crisis, but a couple. I mean, they're not two people arguing. They're two people who are intimate with each other arguing. I mean, if you've ever been in an argument with your wife, husband, whatever, that is exactly what they portrayed. And I thought they did a killer job of it.
I'm going to argue with that. What was the name of the guy who played Jacob? What was his name?
Stephen McCarthy.
Stephen McCarthy. Thank you.
Guys, I'll be right back. My toilet's overflowing. Right. My wife is calling me.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah. Go.
Take over for me, Glenn.
Emergency.
BOT.
Danger, Will Robinson.
He should have just left. He shouldn't have even told us anything.
Right.
Is that one of the... That's a TMI moment. Yeah.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, it's just that he needs to go now. It's like crisis.
Right.
It's like if my house is on fire, you're not going to hear me telling you why I'm leaving. I'm just going to leave. I'll tell you about it afterward. You know what I mean?
We'll figure it out when the flames engulf your chair. So reverse. Who would you put for best actor, worst actor?
I think I will also choose two. One of which will be the same as his, but I think Dominique Tipper has to be the other one. And the actress who plays Lucia, they're seen together about the future, about finding your way from where you are to where I am. That is one of the best scenes of this entire series, so far anyway. It was so well done. Those two acted the living Christ out of it.
I think their version of the scene of that conversation is just as good as the version you get in the book between Alex and Basha.
I like it better for one reason, that it involves kids in it. Because if I remember correctly, Alex does not have any kids in the books.
No kid in the books.
I thought that honestly one of the best changes they made to his character in the series was giving him a kid. But but they still could have achieved the whole talking about our kids thing by having it still be Alex. But I like the fact that we had a very direct parallel between Naomi and Lucia, as literally like a before and after snapshot.
Your mic keeps coming in and out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I keep forgetting that I
just
have. No, thank you, because I keep forgetting that my mic is very directional, and because the way I've got it set. So if I turn my head even slightly, at least I know it's doing what it's supposed to do. But like, it's weird how sometimes it seems like it forgets to do that, though. But yeah, they're what a speech, what a scene. Yeah, seriously.
Yes.
Such a good scene. And I just love that line of like, there's a path from where you are to where I am. It's just such a great line,
Probably I think it might be the best line in the episode, but
yeah. And Winter's Lady has a very interesting parallel. It's like Illa and Perrin in the Wheel of Time series, where she's telling him about her past and the emotional trauma involved and such. Yeah,
that was one of my favorite scenes of the show, of the Wheel of Time show too, when she was talking about losing her daughter.
For me, the actors, I mean, I'll stay in third place because I always do three, first, second, third. I'll start at third place. Bern Gorman, he got outperformed this episode, but I mean, this season, the whole season is kind of almost his season, I think. As much as I hate Adolphus Mercury, he's kind of like the big thing that I remember from this season the most, when I think about the season.
If you want to have a really memorable villain,
book 4 and season 4, I think Mercury. Whereas like book 3, season 3, my brain thinks Ashford. But number 2, Dominique Tipper as Naomi, and it's mostly for the same scene, same reasons as you. That scene with my number 1, Rosa Gilmore, who played Lucia. That scene is just It's so well written. It's so well done. It's so well performed and directed that you almost can forget the rest of the episodes there. You know, it just that scene is like, to me, the heart of the episode. You know, it's just like, and even though it's so completely different than what we got with Basha and Alex, I think it's just as emotional, just as heartfelt, and just as important to the progression of the story as the book version of it was.
Yeah.
Disaster averted.
Yay!
Did you wash your hands?
Had to do yes, and I had to do my impression of Mario and jump to the dry spots to get to shut the water off.
Oh wow!
Oof.
Ooh.
Like, oh,
All right.
it's gonna be fun.
So we've gone through everybody's favorite actors except for you, Bill, or Matt. Yeah, Matt, Bill.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember which
Bill.
name is you.
Rosa Gilmore, Lucia, of course, and Dominique Tipper, Naomi. That scene between them was just so powerful.
That's a consensus for all around then on that.
Yeah.
Even the chat really likes the scene, as you can see. You know, they were impressed with it.
Very well done.
Yeah.
So where does that take us, Bill?
Let's see. After that, we come down to themes. Everybody's favorite.
Oh, were we gonna do worst actor? Or
If you have one, we usually
worse if
we
you have one.
rarely ever actually have one. But if you do have one, please.
It really is. It's what's the reverse of damning with faint praise? It's like what, like let's say like cursing with mild annoyance or something. I don't know. Like I would
Who didn't
say
quite
probably,
do it for you?
maybe I'm trying to remember. I think he was in it. Like the new actor playing Arjun.
Oh, Michael. I can't think of his name.
Oh.
Because I think
Sarala.
he often feels a little too polished to me. You know, like so sometimes, like we have a scene that we get to later where I think he does get a chance to actually shine in the role, but like most of the time he feels just a little too much like I go back and forth between him and the actress who plays Gao, who sometimes they both sometimes feel like they're doing a table read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Which isn't to say they're
sort of
bad
doing rote
actors.
memory.
Yeah,
And I thought Gao at the debates presented properly.
yeah,
I
she did well in this episode.
Yeah, in this episode, yes.
Yeah.
I thought she presented well. You know, she had that little slippery, smarmy thing going on, which was nice. That worked.
I
could
do
you
like
say
the
his last
smarminess.
name?
Michael Benier.
Beignet?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to pronounce his last name. That's the guy who replaced Brian George as Arjun.
I figure it's either Benier or Benyair. One or the other, depending on whether it's supposed to be like Indian-ish or Hebrew-ish, which I know they're probably looking at it.
See, I kind of like the actor. I mean, I didn't have any problems with his performance. I like what he's done over the course of the season, the whole season, as our more than I like Brian George. And I like Brian George. I've seen him in so many things. Everybody knows his face if you've seen anything. You know, the guy is he's just around and he's great. But Michael Benier, I've been really happy with his performance overall this season. It's the only season he's on the show. Yeah, I wish we'd had a chance to get more of him.
The thing that I think is a little bit of a missed opportunity here, and granted, it's nobody's fault. Obviously, it was scheduling that intervened, but like, it would have been interesting to see how the original actor would have navigated the shift in the relationship between Arjun and Christian. You know, because obviously we're introduced to him as this very sort of passive, clearly very on his wife's side kind of character. And it would have been very interesting to see him navigate the shift to this more, I'm seeing you differently for the first time in our relationship
Yeah.
and sort of getting antagonistic with her kind of relationship. That would have been interesting. This character, I think it's like he just felt, what the hell, I turned you off. Anyway, my technology is doing weird shit. But he just, at the beginning of it, he felt more like, and granted, I've been around political couples, so it's not inaccurate. It just felt weird because of how we were introduced to Arjun. But like he felt too much like almost like her chief of staff. You know what I mean? Rather than her husband. And it almost felt like sometimes we were being told that they have this relationship rather than being shown that they have that relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Again, it's just a little bit whiplashy because of the original actor. We have a point of comparison that if we didn't have that point of comparison, I probably would not feel that way. Because again, he's not a bad actor.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say he's a bad actor because that's not what it was at all. It's just that
Well,
I felt like his
the
performance.
change never would have happened if the show hadn't been canceled at Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, because he went
Because
to do other stuff.
it took so long to get it set up for season 4 at Amazon that Brian George found another job. It wasn't available.
Yeah, we can't.
I thought he had.
Just hang out.
I thought that his presentation, though, of the character when he was sitting at the table with Bobby, I think that was episode 2.
Yeah,
I thought that worked out really well. But as you were saying, it wasn't him and Avasarala, which is really the key to how we perceive him. Not so much dealing with Bobby, but dealing with Avasarala.
Yeah. So that's why I say, it's not really what I think most of us usually mean when we say worst actor. Like everyone on this show is at worst competent. You know what I mean? like there's nobody who's sitting there just like turning in like a bad performance or phoning it in. It's just like people who are really on are really on. You know what I mean? So it's like
I can agree with that. That at worst they're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At best they're great, and it seems like it rotates who gets the great scenes. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job of spreading it out this season. I can tell you that much. I think I've had a different actor just about every episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting Avasarala to be Shore to be one of the ones who runs away with next season. I know the impact of certain events that will be happening in that season. So yeah. So
well, okay. Reverse clarify this for me. Have you read past book 4?
The only stuff I haven't read for the Expanse is I haven't read the novellas and I haven't read Leviathan Falls.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how it all ends yet. Though I have some probably decent guesses, but
I've read past 4. I just haven't watched.
They all die.
Yeah. Everybody dies. Everybody dies.
I really honestly do expect everyone to die at the end. So I really do. I don't expect all of humanity to die, but I do expect our main characters to basically go out in a blaze of glory.
I'm not gonna lie, I may throw a mini party when certain people die. Holden. He annoys me sometimes.
Will be right there with you. My mom. It was more of a running joke at this point because I don't think she actually genuinely hates him anymore. But when
I don't either. He just annoys me.
She went seriously. I think all the way through, right up through like halfway through season 3, hating Holden's guts. She couldn't stand him.
I don't think I ever hated him. He just annoyed me a lot.
But yeah, that's really what it was. She saw him as painfully naive.
Well, that's how he's painted, basically.
Yeah. I mean, Book Holden made me want to punch him in the face too. So
he's only naive because the rest of us are cynical. I mean, if the rest of the world wasn't so cynical, he wouldn't be as naive.
If I guarantee you, Holden has been added to TV Tropes entry on White Knight. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
because he is about as like archetypal a White Knight character as you get. And for me, one of the thing that's the most fun about his character is watching him get painted with successively darker shades of gray. As the series goes on, and he gets that nice little shiny buffed off of him by the world.
Oh yeah.
So, did we have any other worst actors before we move on to themes? Anybody else?
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't. There wasn't anybody that made me. So.
So on themes, who wants to kick off with any themes that they might have picked up on for the episode?
Well, under themes, I have a note here that says theme. What theme?
Well, I got two that are like right in your face. First off, truth. Truth is a major theme throughout the entire episode, going from Nancy Gao being revealed how she advanced and how she got through the lottery, and then her second and alternate and all those alternates got jobs because of that. Holden telling the truth about Miller and the protomolecule relationship he has. Naomi is telling the truth about Marco Inaros and the Augustine Gamara. And the viewers are learning that truth of what caused the explosion at the landing pad at the very beginning of this episode, because we think it's just an explosion. And here, this episode, we get the truth of it was people setting off a bomb, The other big theme, and I'll admit I cheated on this one because I listened to Ty and That Guy episode talking about this, and Ty Frank literally said the theme of this episode is power. Who has the power to decide what happens with the Ring Gate worlds? You see it with Avasarala and Gao, as well as Holden versus Murtry, and then the whole Belter Lucens versus the RCE. It's who has the power in the situation, who has the power over this world, who has the power to decide who has the power. Mm-hmm. And it's just, as soon as he said the word power, I'm like, whoa, well, yeah, you can't get away from that one. That and truth. I don't see how you can get away from those two themes for this episode.
For me,
do you have one?
Just who gets to decide what it's called? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Personal responsibility was a big one in this episode. From Holden trying to take on the personal responsibility of if the Belters die because they won't leave, I have to make them leave, and Naomi going no. Mm-hmm. It's not your responsibility. You need to give them the choice. They make it. They live or die by their own choice. Same thing with Lucia. The guilt to the point where when she does get a bleed, she decides to let herself die and just takes her hands off the wound and floats. She comes to accept responsibility.
Sorry, I just had to put that up.
No, I just read it.
It's
okay.
That is so utterly Norman Garden.
Who has the power to decide who has the power to decide who has the power to decide who has power?
Now I've got like a weird remix of Kanye's Power in my head.
Oh,
nobody deserves that.
Sorry.
It's one of the only songs I like of his, actually.
Okay. Don't know, don't care.
Don't know it.
It's actually really catchy if you ever hear it. But
is it? Oh,
shame.
okay.
It's a shame.
I might have heard it. I don't knowingly know any Kanye songs. I knowingly never heard any of it.
The only one I know is because Weird Al did a parody of it, "Trapped in the Drive-Thru," instead of "Trapped in the Closet." So
that's not Kanye. That's who is it? It's one of the other fuck ups.
Is it?
That's oh, for fuck's sakes! It's
We'll look it up. Somebody will look it up.
The one who liked to pee on little girls.
R. Kelly.
Yes,
R. Kelly.
Yeah, that's R. Kelly.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, trapped in the drive-through.
Figures I wouldn't know his music, but the minute you mentioned his scandal, I'm like, oh yeah, R. Kelly.
I had no idea about that either. So
yeah.
All right.
Did we have any other themes?
I'm gonna go with the one that I keep harping on as being the whole conflict between who people want to be and who they either are or think they are. That I think is one of the overarching themes of the season, which I think actually ties really well into what you guys are bringing up too, because all those elements are definitely part of that.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, Glenn's theme about power goes back to one of my favorite scenes that I didn't think to mention at the time. When right after the RCE goons are kidnapped, which is another change from the books, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Right.
When they're kidnapped, and you have what is it? You've got WtA and Amos, and then Holden comes and joins them, and then shortly afterwards, Murtry shows up, and Murtry goes on his power trip. And he basically says, "I'm going to gas, I'm going to capture, I'm going to, I'm going to become the law." And I don't know if I made a note about it in my quotable quotes. I did. Okay. Honestly, I don't give an F now, is basically what he says to Holden. He is done with these belters.
As he calls them, professional victims and martyrs.
Yeah.
To which my response would be when you're a professional oppressor, and that's exactly the title of this episode, Oppressor.
Oppressor, yeah.
Murtry is the oppressor. There's another oppressor. You could kind of possibly make an argument, at least citizens on Earth could probably make an argument that Avasarala is an oppressor. Coming from the governing class.
She is.
And she's always, she never had to get the help that Nancy Gao got because, as Nancy Gao put it, she's from the political aristocracy. Yeah. She's part of the oppressing class. Murtry comes to Illis. I won't call it WtA. He comes to Illis armed to the teeth. He says he was on a peaceful mission. You don't go on a peaceful mission armed. That's not peaceful. If you have a weapon on you, it's not peaceful.
They always have self-protection, so I'll disagree with you.
Yeah,
there.
I'll disagree with you on that
went there
as well.
knowing there's a bunch of belters there. They went there to take the planet from the belters.
Well, yeah. That's Murtry's mindset.
I carry concealed to the grocery store. Am I looking for a fight at the grocery store? No. But I do carry concealed for my protection. So I can't agree with you there that just because you have a weapon means you want to fight, because I don't.
I'm saying if you show up with a weapon, it's not you're not on a peaceful mission. You're on a mission that will allow for violence.
Well, yeah, it will allow for violence. And so, from the security standpoint, you go into certain situations armed because you think violence is a possible outcome, a likely outcome. Now, here's the problem with Murtry, and I think that one of the things that the show did that was an accurate read from Amos's perspective, is that Murtry is interesting because he's not wrong, but remember that South Park episode where about Kenny getting to die, where he's on life support and Cartman taking off life support. So there's this great line in that episode where the other boys, I think it was Stan, says to Kyle, is I realized that Cartman is right for all the wrong reasons, and we're wrong for all the right reasons. You know what I mean?
I think it's goddammit, Cartman's right.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's that's how I look at Murtry, because he's not wrong from the perspective of coming in there armed. He isn't, because there's a very high possibility that violence would result. So if you're going to go into that situation, you come prepared for that. The problem is Murtry is also someone who wants that to be the outcome. You know what I mean? And it's when we have a conversation, for instance, on policing, I always tell people it's not that police are bad. Having police is bad. That's not the problem. The problem is the kinds of people who all too often become police. If you're going to have laws, you will always need someone who enforces those laws. Otherwise, your laws don't exist. They're pointless.
Right.
But you don't want people who are looking for an excuse to get the truncheon out and crack open some skulls. And that's who Murtry is. Murtry is the person who's looking for the reason to pull out the gun and start shooting.
I figured Murtry back in school was either the bully or the bullied. He's one of the two. Looking at how
Probably
small Bern Gorman is, he's probably was the bullied. Because Bern Gorman's a small guy. He doesn't look that tall.
Yeah.
Compared to, put him next to everybody else. He's pretty short, like me. So I figure Murtry was probably the guy who got bullied. And then he got out of that, out of school, and he became the bully. Mm-hmm. Which is the behavior I've seen from at least 3 people I was in school with who are now police officers.
Yeah.
2 of them were bullies. 1 of them was the bullied. And they're all pretty mean cops to this day.
Institutional authority is very attractive to that kind of person, which is why you have to put safeguards in place, and you have to constantly be observing them to make sure that they're not overstepping, and that you get the people who think that way out. And the show does definitely have, that's another theme actually we should bring up this for the series as a whole, and it gets again back to power, because that's ultimately what it is about. But when we get back to the conversation that Miller had when he was alive with Holden about why he became a cop, and he's like, oh, it was Semi's idea. He said you could either be an ass or you could be a boot,
right?
And there's that mindset too. It's like, I remember when I was younger, so I was always very small until I suddenly got big, but I was freakishly strong. And so like nobody would ever like expect me to be as strong as I was for how small I was. So I got bullied all the time. So it's a bookworm. I was very much a nerd. I was teacher's pet, all that good stuff. So definitely got bullied all the time. But when I got pushed hard enough, I would hit back, and unfortunately I could hit back pretty hard. But what I observed from bullies, because there was one bully that he kept bullying me and bullying me and bullying me. Finally, he cornered me and picked a fight, and I knocked him out. And the weirdest thing happened. That kid, who was literally easily twice my size, followed me around like a puppy from that day on. Anybody, I never had to fight again, because anybody picked a fight with me, he fought them. It was the weirdest thing, you know? And so one of the things, like, I always tell people when I see them going down that road is I tell them, you have a choice. You know what I mean? First of all, bullies, like you were saying before, like they usually are bullied. That's usually what starts them on the path. They're looking for someone else who's smaller and weaker than they are, that they can take out the feelings they have that they wish they could take out on whoever's hurting them. Usually something going on at home. But I always tell them, you know what it's like to be hurt. You know what it's like to be put in a situation where you're afraid all the time, where bad things can happen to you. You have a choice right now to either be someone else's villain or to be someone else's hero. And I think that's the difference between good cops and bad cops right there. Yeah, the ones who go in it looking for a badge that gives them permission to hurt other people, and you have people who go into it looking for the chance to be the hero. They want to go in and save people. Aunt Murtry, like I was saying, like we can all agree, is the former. He's the type who is looking for other people to hurt and is looking for institutional legal cover for when he does it. But I don't think RCE itself came armed specifically because they were like, yeah, we're going to kill everybody. You know what I mean? I do think they showed up early, though, because they were trying to put the Belters on the back foot. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They definitely, their mission was definitely to make sure that the Belters are out of here by the end of this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I still have a hard time looking at the situation as anything but an armed invasion of Illis. And I'm the guy who doesn't even like the Belters. Like I said a couple of times, I'm more of an Earth person when it comes to the Expanse. The Belt and Mars can go fuck off for what all I care most, for the most part. But in this case, the Belters, the Aleutians, are 100% the ones who should have that planet, and nobody else. Anybody else coming in as invader, it's no different than the Europeans coming to the New World. The New World.
Frontier law would give it to the Aleutians anyway.
According to your logic, the original inhabitants of that planet then are the ones who belong on that planet, and your Belters
if
don't.
They exist. if they existed anymore.
You don't know if they do or not. They're just
Oh
not
yeah,
there at
who's
the
to
moment.
say whether they're there or not?
Yeah. So, if you're good for the goose, good for the gander. You have to think about that
just thought-
repercussion when you put that out there.
I just
So
thought
it's
about
like,
the fact that from that logic, Holden declared war on the builders when he
He
dropped
did.
the torpedo.
When he dropped a bomb on his Beyblade.
Yeah.
You broke my toy, motherfucker.
Oh, it's a good thing they weren't around, because that would have ended very swiftly and decisively.
Oh yeah, and messily.
Yeah.
Very
Let's
much.
put it this way: the ruin would have closed up a lot faster than it did, and Holden would still be down the hole with Miller, chewing on a root.
I wonder what it would have been like, honestly, if the builders had still been around when people went through gates. That's something. That's a fun little what if to contemplate.
And actually, you bring up a good point. I mean, were any of these? Well, they went through all the gates, but we have to assume that, right? They built the gates. They went through the gates.
Elis isn't the. Oh, you mean the builders or
the builders? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they've already done
Sort of.
everything they're going to do with the planets there. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Given enough time and so on and so forth. So who knows? Now,
Winners, lady. Glory to the
Glory
builders.
to the builders. That's right.
That's beautiful.
Good call, winners,
It's
lady.
funny how many words you get in common with different franchises. They mean like kind of the same, but also wildly different things.
Yeah, very different.
You know what ultimately happens to the Ogier, right? They transcend reality and they become like, hyperdimensional.
I wonder what the Expanse version of the Book of Translation is.
Don't know.
I'm kind of terrified.
Oh, I think it's probably just the dictionary for speaking Belter.
Oof.
Oh my goodness.
Did anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking. Now all of a sudden I'm thinking of the adversary as Machin Shin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very good. I like that. I like that.
Hyper upgraded version of Machin Shin.
Yep.
Nice.
It is a proto molecule.
Did we have any other notes? Any other points anybody needed to bring up?
Yeah.
Mitch, I know you've got extensive notes there. What you got?
I got one thing, and actually this wasn't even in my mind when we started this, but you guys got talking about the most interesting character in the entire season, Murtry. In the books, we only have 4 points of view. We have Basia, Holden, Elvie, and Havelock. Those are the only 4 points of view that we have. And every one of them, to some extent, Basia the least, has some interaction with Murtry. So what they're able to do in the show with the Murtry character, I think, is they've got a lot of leeway to do whatever they want with him. And though he's similar to the book, I think they just made him so much better than what was portrayed in the book. And I'm wondering if it's because of the original points of view, because there are only 4 throughout the entire book. If, maybe they had so much leeway with that character, they could do whatever they wanted, because all we have is observations of him by others. We're never in his head itself.
We actually he becomes much more a POV character in the show.
Yeah, especially this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We get a glimpse into his reasoning, and on some level, you're like, okay, he's not wrong, but he is going about this the wrong way.
Yeah. You can't call it unreasoning.
No.
Yeah.
You really can't, but there is some reason.
It's overzealous. That's what it is. It's like
that's a good term.
Overzealous
that's good term
and also bigoted. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's a bigot, and
most inners are.
Yeah. He's got that colonial, patronizing, patriarchal attitude towards these you know,
I mean,
these other people.
even Holden's family has that problem.
Yeah.
No,
I remember. I always think back to when Holden's dad, well, one of his dads tries to talk to Naomi and Belter. You know what I mean? And I will say this: that's one of the things that I actually wish the show had done closer to the books, because if I remember correctly, in the book, his family is still a little more overtly racist against her.
Yeah, they
At
are.
least
You know what I
one,
mean?
a couple of
And
them
I
are.
would have preferred to have seen that because it's more realistic. You know, I mean, these are people who have grown up with Earth propaganda, even though they see themselves as counterculture, you know, on Earth. You know, I like seeing that sort of things. Like one of the reasons I really love the movie Get Out. You know, seeing this whole benign, what a lot of people think of as benign racism, right? Where it's like, I'm sure that Holden's family, that even in the books, none of them were sitting there going, "Oh, the only good Belter is a dead Belter." You know what I mean?
Right.
But they have that, like, you know, that preconceived notions.
His parents are the kind of parents that would use the N-word.
Yeah. You know, if you look at counterculture in the United States, there's, you know, everyone thinks, oh yeah, hippies and all that kind of stuff.
They forget the mountain folk.
Look at what you see in Idaho nowadays.
Yeah.
You see a lot of counterculture. You see people who are into the batteries, they're into the solar panels, they're into the KKK.
Yep.
That's the counterculture there. And I'm not belittling it or whatever, I'm pointing it out. And KKK was probably extreme. But it's
It is the state that had the highest population.
Yeah, counterculture is just a matter of your perspective as to what's counter.
Yeah. And there are so many different versions of counterculture. I mean, the punk rock crowd was just as much counterculture as the hippies ever were, as much as the rap fans were, and breakdancing, you know, breakdancers were in the early days. You know, counterculture is an umbrella term for all sorts of things there. So it's,
in many cases, it's just a phrase that means this is the latest and the greatest, and it'll be gone in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like whatever the most oppressive aspects of the establishment are considered to be at this particular moment in this particular place.
Right.
That's what we're against. You know?
Exactly. And it'll all be gone in 10 years, and there'll be another set of things that people are going to protest against, or, you know, say it's abnormal, and, you know.
2 generations is pretty much all it takes for the anti-establishment to become the establishment. Yeah.
Well, speaking of being gone, that's what we need to be. We want to thank you for joining us. Winter's Lady, Noman Garden, everybody else. Thanks for joining us.
Chronic Viking.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Chronic Viking.
Thanks for asking me in. Glad I was.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, BLT, for filling in tonight for Beth Domon. She wasn't able to make it. She had a bit of a crisis on her hands that she had to take care of, so she sends her apologies. Thank you, Mitch, for being on this tour with us for the whole season again. Bill, thank you for running the show for me tonight. Saved me from having to keep track of rating us in, because I'm really bad at that when I'm on with reverse BLT.
Okay.
I totally
Winter's
apologize
Lady,
just for interrupting.
Yeah, Winter's Lady Beth is okay herself.
Yeah, she's okay. Yes. It just, there was an issue she had to deal with that. So thank you guys for watching at home. Please leave us a like. Hit that subscribe button. It would really help if you hit that red button. Subscribe. It helps a lot. It's real easy to do. And come back next week as we discuss episode 406. And thanks for watching.
Where is that?
Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Don't forget to comment too, guys. Comments.
Yes, leave some comments.
Where's the red button? I missed it.
It's there somewhere. And hey, don't forget to be awesome.
See ya.
Bye.